entering the forbidden frequency, the gateways of shadow that most souls fear. There are certain frequencies on this planet that almost no one dares to touch. Not because they're evil, but because they are so real they strip away everything false. These are the shadow vibrations. Not the kind you read about in surface-level spirituality. Not the "I had a rough day" kind of shadow. I'm talking about the raw, ancient, primal forces of consciousness that exist beneath the programming of this world. Energies that speak in silence. Energies that burn illusions. Very few people can even sense them. But for the 1% of elite dark chosen ones who have been initiated through pain, betrayal, loss, and awakening, these vibrations are not optional. They are required. They are the keys to unlock the highest levels of spiritual mastery. But here's the truth: you cannot fake your way into them. They do not respond to intellect, status, or ego. They only respond to spiritual authenticity. And once you touch them, you are never the same again. The first vibration is the void frequency. This is the darkest point on the spectrum. It's not depression. It's deeper. It's the space where even the soul goes silent. Most people fear the void because it feels like death. But the elite chosen ones, we learn to sit in it. We learn to let it consume everything that isn't real. The void strips identity, ambition, even your spiritual pride. It whispers, "If you are no one, and nothing, what remains?" And the answer is terrifying and divine, pure consciousness. Only those who've endured ego death can understand this. The void doesn't offer comfort, it offers clarity. And if you can survive it, if you can breathe in the space where nothing exists, you begin to carry a kind of stillness that shakes people. You become immune to the chaos of the world, because you've already faced the silence behind it. The second vibration is wrath transmutation. Most spiritual people are told to avoid anger. But the elite dark chosen ones understand, anger is not the enemy. It's a portal, a sacred fire. The problem isn't anger, it's unprocessed anger. When you alchemize wrath into clarity, it becomes a weapon of truth. It becomes a shield for the innocent. It becomes the roar that breaks generational cycles. We don't suppress our rage, we consecrate it. We use it to cut through delusion, to speak when others are afraid, to destroy what no longer serves. But this requires a brutal level of self-awareness. You have to know where your rage is coming from. You have to face your own shadow first. Only then can you wield that fire without burning down your own life. Ask yourself this: have you ever mistaken rage for your enemy, when it was actually your buried voice trying to rise? The third vibration is sacred grief. This is not just sadness, it's the ache of remembering who you used to be before the world made you forget. It's the mourning of timelines that never happened. It's the heartbreak of loving people who were never ready to receive you. Most people run from grief. But we, those who have touched this vibration, we honor it. We sit with it like an old teacher. We allow it to break us open. Because grief is the gateway to compassion, and a vision to divine memory. It softens the heart without weakening the soul. If you can cry fully, you can lead fully. Because you've tasted the depth of human experience. And when others meet you, they feel it. Your energy says, I've been shattered too, but I still rise. That kind of vibration is rare. It's magnetic, and it cannot be imitated. The fourth vibration is radical aloneness. Not loneliness, aloneness. The chosen ones are not just separated from people, they are separated from timelines, from mass consciousness, from the false matrix. You begin to feel like you're living in a completely different reality. And that's because you are. This vibration is one of the hardest to endure. You'll feel invisible. You'll feel like no one truly understands you. But here's the secret. In that aloneness, your true identity begins to emerge. You stop performing. You stop explaining. You stop apologizing for your difference. You become sovereign. And that sovereignty becomes your protection, your power, your prophecy. But you have to walk through the ache of not belonging. You have to learn to belong to yourself. The question is, can you be so fully alone that you become whole? The fifth shadow vibration is Ancestral Confrontation. This one's deep. It's when you realize your body is holding memories that didn't start with you. That your addictions, your fears, your triggers, they might not even belong to you. This vibration forces you to descend into the bloodline, to meet the ghosts of your lineage, to forgive what was never healed, to confront what was never spoken. Only the elite chosen ones dare touch this, because it means becoming the breaker of cycles. It means carrying what others refuse to face. And that weight, it's crushing until you learn how to transmute it into spiritual wealth. Your ancestors begin to walk with you, not as burdens, but as allies. You become the first in your line to remember, awaken, to rise. And that awakening doesn't just heal you, it heals 7 generations forward and backward. The sixth vibration is divine madness. This is the point where the structures of logic collapse, where the mystical begins to bleed into the mundane. You start seeing signs everywhere. You hear messages in silence. You sense energy in the air. And if you're not grounded, it can break you. Many spiritual initiates lose themselves here. But the elite chosen ones, we integrate it. We learn the language of the unseen. We walk between worlds. And we don't explain ourselves. We don't try to make sense to a world that's still asleep. We become the bridge, the oracle, the code carrier. But to carry those codes, you must be willing to be called crazy. You must be willing to be misunderstood. And you must ground your madness in mission. Otherwise, you'll float away. This is why we meditate. This is why we fast. This is why we train. Because the power of divine madness is only safe in a vessel that has been disciplined by the dark. And finally, the seventh and rarest vibration is sacred death. Not physical death, but ego death, timeline death, the complete surrender of identity. You stop being who you were told to be. You stop clinging to roles, to names, to outcomes. You die before you die, and in that death you are reborn as a living myth. Your energy becomes archetypal, You no longer walk as just yourself, you walk as a symbol, or in a signpost, a map for others. But this death, it costs everything. You will lose people. You will lose comfort. You will lose control. And in return, you will gain presence, power, purpose. But the question still remains, are you ready to die to who you think you are in order to become who your soul already is? The Temple of Fire, how the elite chosen ones harness these vibrations to reshape reality. Once you've touched the 7 shadow vibrations, everything changes. Not just your inner world, but the fabric of reality around you. These aren't just emotional states or metaphorical concepts. These are frequencies. And when you learn to hold them without flinching, without running, without collapsing, you begin to reshape timelines. That's what most people don't understand about the elite dark chosen ones. We don't just survive shadow work, we wield it. We walk into the frequencies others avoid, and we come out with codes. We don't just heal, we reprogram. We become architects of energy. And the world around us begins to bend, not because we impose control, but because we've aligned so deeply that reality must respond. This is the Temple of Fire, a sacred place that lives not in space, but in vibration. And once you enter it, you don't leave the same. You begin to realize that every shadow vibration is a tool. The void, it becomes your reset button. When the world gets too loud, too chaotic, you return to the void, not to disconnect, but to recalibrate. You sit in that formlessness until clarity returns. While others spiral in confusion, you become the stillness in the storm. Wrath transmutation. That becomes your sword. You no longer use anger to lash out, you use it to cut through lies. You use it to protect what's sacred, to burn bridges that were never meant to be crossed again. You don't fear fire anymore. You are the fire. And sacred grief, that becomes your compass. Every time you feel the ache, the sorrow, the memory, you honor it. You let it lead you deeper into purpose. You no longer numb your pain. You mine it for gold. This is why elite chosen ones are so rare, because most people stop at awareness. They say, I know my shadow, but they never integrate it. They intellectualize it, analyze it, even post about it, but they don't live it. We do. We become it, not in dysfunction, but in mastery. We learn to hold both light and dark in the same breath, and that duality becomes our strength. We walk into rooms and shift the energy not with force, but with frequency, because we are no longer ruled by the outer world. We've become so deeply rooted in the inner realms that nothing external can truly move us. And that kind of stillness, it's magnetic. It's unnerving. People feel your presence before you speak. They sense the depth, the weight, and they either run from it or rise into it. When you begin to harness these vibrations with intention, your manifestations shift from effort to inevitability. You no longer chase, you attract through alignment. You stop forcing timelines to open, they unlock on their own, because your frequency is the key. Radical aloneness becomes your throne. You're no longer desperate for connection. You've become so whole within yourself that the universe begins to orbit around you. You draw in only what matches your frequency, and everything else, it fades. You realize that solitude is not a lack, it's a luxury. A sacred space where your visions are born without distortion. You become the container, and from that container you create reality. Ancestral confrontation becomes your legacy work. You no longer carry generational trauma unconsciously, you consciously transmute it. You speak to the ancestors. You break pacts they made in fear. You reclaim gifts they buried in shame. And in doing so, you awaken future generations. Children who haven't even been born yet will feel the impact of your healing. But this is not romantic work. It's brutal. It's messy. It requires you to feel what they couldn't, to cry what they swallowed, to forgive what they passed down. But when you do, you become a portal of lineage restoration. You become the first of your kind, the one who remembered. And divine madness, that becomes your creative genius. You stop needing logic to make sense of your life. You start trusting the currents, the signs, the dreams. You channel. You receive downloads at 3 a.m. You speak words you didn't plan. You write things that feel divinely dictated. You operate from a realm that's not bound by time or space. And you stay grounded not by suppressing the madness, but by befriending it. You realize that your weirdness is your weapon, that your too much is your power. You stop editing yourself for the comfort of others. You start expressing from the soul. And in that expression, you create worlds, art, music, movements, energy that lives long after your body is gone. Sacred death, finally, becomes your daily practice. You no longer fear endings. You welcome them. You let old identities die. You let relationships expire naturally. You don't cling. You don't chase. You release, because you know that every death is a doorway. And every time you walk through one, you become lighter, sharper, clearer. You stop fearing the unknown because you are the unknown. You walk with spirit in your bones. You become the living mystery, and people will never fully understand you. That's the point. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be felt, to be experienced, but to be remembered in the soul, not the mind. So now I ask you, what would your life look like if you stopped avoiding these vibrations and started mastering them? What could you create, shift, or awaken if you stopped fearing your own depth? The truth is, you were never meant to be normal. You were meant to go deeper, to touch what others won't, and to hold what others can't, to transform what others fear. That's why the fire called you. That's why the shadows followed you. That's why the world tried to break you, because it sensed what you were becoming. But now, the question is not, why me? The question is, what now? The legacy of the invisible ones, how the 1% rewrite reality without ever being seen. There's a reason the most powerful beings on this planet are never the loudest. They're not trending. They're not chasing fame. They're not on stages trying to be heard, because their work happens in the quantum, in the silence, in the unseen. These are the elite dark chosen ones, those who have mastered the 7 shadow vibrations and now move through the world like whispers of fate. You won't always notice them. But when you meet them, something inside you shifts. Their presence rearranges timelines. Their words echo long after they're gone. Their energy doesn't scream, it commands. They are the invisible architects of the new world. And their legacy? It's not written in books. It's written in souls, in awakenings, in ripple effects that can't be traced back, but can be felt everywhere. This is the final evolution of shadow mastery, not just surviving the darkness, not just alchemizing it, but becoming the vessel through which new realities are born. The elite chosen ones don't ask for permission. They don't wait for signs. They are the sign, because by now they've been stripped of everything false. Their ego has died 1,000 times. Their identity isn't based on roles, it's based on resonance. They live in alignment with forces most people don't even believe in. Their intuition is faster than logic. Their decisions are shaped by energy, not opinion. And yet they remain grounded, humble, silent. Because they know the deeper truth, the more power you hold, the less you need to show it. At this stage, their presence becomes medicine. People confess things around them, cry around them, awaken around them. Not because they're trying to teach, but because they embody the teaching. They don't quote wisdom, they live it. They don't say, "I'm spiritual," they breathe spirit. And the world often misunderstands this. It calls them strange, too intense, too deep. But the real ones feel it. The real ones are drawn like moths to flame. Because in a world addicted to distraction, the chosen ones carry depth. In a world ruled by illusion, they walk in truth. And that contrast, it's unforgettable. It's sometimes uncomfortable, but it's always transformative. But the legacy of the 1% isn't about being seen, it's about being effective. Every room they walk into is subtly shifted. Every interaction is intentional. They're not trying to be everywhere, they're exactly where they need to be. And because of that precision, their impact multiplies. They're not just helping people, they're awakening archetypes. They're not just healing wounds, they're collapsing timelines of pain. Their words don't just resonate, they rewire. They activate dormant codes in others. They're not just speaking to the person in front of them, they're speaking to the future selves of everyone who hears them. And all of this happens without recognition, without applause, without validation. Because they've transcended the need to be seen. They've become mirrors of the soul. Some of you watching this are already feeling the pull. You've touched these shadow vibrations. You've walked through the void. You felt the divine madness. You've cried in silence, wondering why your life has been so intense, so lonely, so different. Let me tell you something that no one else will. You're not cursed. You're converging. You're being shaped into someone who can hold frequencies that would shatter most people. And yes, it's hard. Yes, it's heavy. But it's also holy. Every initiation, every heartbreak, every betrayal, it was preparing you for this. And for right now. For this moment when you stop asking, why me? and start declaring, of course, me. Because only someone who has walked through hell can carry heaven in their bones. The legacy of the invisible ones is not about being remembered. It's about being felt. Long after they're gone, their vibration lingers. In the people they touched, in the lives they shifted, in the systems they dismantled just by existing differently. They are the silent revolution, the spiritual catalysts, the ones who didn't need to climb ladders because they built their own realms. And now they're calling others forward, not with noise, but with resonance. So if you're hearing this and something inside you is trembling good, that's your soul recognizing the frequency. You're not here to fit in. You're here to remember, to reclaim, to radiate. So I ask you this: what would happen if you stopped hiding your depth? If you stopped diluting your truth for comfort? If you stopped fearing your own power? Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more frequency holders. More people who faced their shadows and still chose love. More people who walk in silence but carry the storm. More people who are willing to be invisible to the world so they can be in service to the divine. That's the real flex. That's the real mission. That's the real legacy. And now, if you've truly felt this message not just with your mind, but in your body, in your bones, in your blueprint, then maybe, just maybe, you are one of us. One of the 1%. One of the silent few called to hold the 7 most powerful shadow frequencies on earth. Not to be worshipped, not to be followed, but to anchor light into places so dark, only you can reach them. That's why you were chosen. That's why you're still here. And that is why the fire never consumed you.